This was a good idea, all right? But I also admit this was a really big idea too. And that big idea has implications now. Stuxnet is the first time where we've seen significant physical damage created by a cyber attack.
Do you think it was an act of war?
I would not call it an act of war. Look, given my own background, Steve, I mean, I've got this whole universe of things between peace and war that are called covert actions. I don't think whoever did this considered it to be an act of war. The Iranians have not quite responded to it as if it were an act of war. It's in that space between the two.
If the United States were involved in this, or were to become involved in something like this, how high would the authorization have to go?
You're asking a theoretical question.
Right.
I'm going to give you a theoretical answer based upon my experience in government. Something of this nature gets approved in the West Wing.
President?
Yeah.
You left the CIA in 2009?
2009, right.
Does this surprise you that this happened?
You need to separate my experience at CIA with your question.
Right.
All right?
You can't talk about the CIA.
No, and I don't even want to suggest what may have been on the horizon or not on the horizon or anything like that. All right? But look, you've got a terrible problem here in the Persian Gulf. You've got Iran that seems inexorably on this arc in the direction of a nuclear capacity. Let me count the ways as to why that's a bad thing. And so it would seem to me to be inevitable, since they're getting a weapon unacceptable, and a large-scale kinetic attack against them is almost equally unacceptable, that nations who would oppose this would try to explore other means between accepting the weapon and going kinetic, as we said, would find other means to slow down or stop this program.
Were you surprised that so much information became available about this?
In one sense, yes. In another sense, no. When you use a weapon in the cyber domain, it's then out there in the wild. So it was out there for very bright people to examine. So whoever did this had to kind of fold that into their calculation prior to the decision to go ahead. And clearly, they thought this was an acceptable cost, an acceptable burden, because of what it was they expected this weapon to achieve. And frankly, looking at it from the outside, I would agree with the calculation. I think this was on balance the right thing to do.